Bonhoeffers Principle and the Online Labor Market, Part 2. How you can't rate the food when you never listen to the diners. Who this is for. Job seekers who've been applying into black holes and blaming themselves when the system failed. Small business owners who've been priced out of visibility by platforms designed to favor national brands. Journalists and policymakers who want to understand why record openings didn't translate into real hiring. Economists and investors who are tracking trust collapse and structural dysfunction beneath the illusion of prosperity. The hiring market's one-sided mirror. For the last 2 decades, labor market economists and policymakers have relied almost exclusively on one-sided signals. Job postings assumed to represent real demand, wages assumed to represent worker leverage, ATS analytics assumed to represent efficiency, platform dashboards assumed to represent truth. Meanwhile, platforms like Indeed, LinkedIn, and Greenhouse were not measuring hires at all. They were measuring engagement, not outcomes. Their incentive was to maximize churn, not matches. But job seekers were living an entirely different reality. Ghost jobs, roles posted endlessly but never filled, broken funnels, resumes uploaded into ATS black holes, scams, duplicates, and fake ads designed to drive clicks and harvest data, exhaustion and disengagement after 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000 unanswered applications. Those signals, the lived experience of the people inside the system, were erased from the models entirely. And when you ignore the only people who can see the cracks forming, the system becomes blind to its own basic market dysfunction. Think about it like this. When you've already convinced yourself that the very people licking the watches can't be trusted, you never realize when you've created an economic radium girls situation at scale. The Great Gaslighting. This wasn't just an academic failure. It became a policy failure, a media failure, and ultimately a cultural failure. Policymakers leaned on false prosperity narratives, inflated job postings, platform-fed metrics to justify cutting unemployment aid and withdrawing pandemic supports. Economists blame worker disengagement and laziness when the real culprit was trust collapse in a system running on fake signals. Media outlets amplified the "nobody wants to work" storyline without questioning who controlled the underlying data, frequently citing reports and dashboards produced by platforms like Indeed's Hiring Lab or LinkedIn's Economic Graph, whose business models profit from churn. Millions of people were actively harmed by this disconnect, but worse, they were gaslit into believing the harm was their fault. Families drained their savings, parents carried shame they didn't earn, communities fractured under narratives blaming individual work ethic for structural dysfunction. This is why the latest job reports were shared and many saw terrible numbers as a relief. Their economic prospects hadn't changed, but the system's metrics finally aligned with their lived reality, bringing the possibility of expanded empathy from those in authority.